In 3 days, I have something brand new that I'm going to announce. Saying I'm totally excited about it doesn't really give it the props of what it is. It's an idea that's been reborn, revamped, and it's nearly something brand new, but the embodiment of it from myself and the way that it has taken a mind of its own and become its own entity has really shown me how much doing all the work that I have done on beliefs and on healing, and as much as I hate talking about that, without doing all that work that I've done and all the things I've been through and all the things I have created and started, I wouldn't be here doing this thing. In light of that, for the next 3 days, I'm going to give you 3 beliefs in 3 different categories that I know for myself I had to work on. These were ones that were deep within who I am, they were something that I had to address myself. There was something that I've had to hold on, and I want to share these with you in the hope that they can help you too. So today we're starting with the most obvious, well, what I think is one of the most obvious places where we can hold particular beliefs that restrict us from being able to receive. And yes, I'm talking about money. And I'm going straight in here today. I'm not putting an intro. I'm not doing anything. Today is just pure talk. So I know for a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I'm talking about myself first and always, money can be a problem. Money can be the thing that ruins a relationship. Money can be the thing that can start a war. Money can be the thing that can save a life. Money can be the thing that can literally change a whole reality for someone. It can do so many things based on how we are holding the codes to money, how we are seeing money, how we are believing in what money is and what it means to us. And we can go back and we can look at, where money came from, how it sort of came about, and we can believe that originally that there was more of a barter system in place where people would exchange things for things or services for goods and services exchange. Money today, not that much different. We're still exchanging it in receipt of something else, or we are giving it to someone to receive something else. It's an energetic exchange based on whatever it is we want or what we want to receive. But the value of money and the way we look at money will definitely be based on the money stories that we hold. And whether we like it or not, whether we're spiritual or religious, or no matter where we come from, what walk of life, we will have an idea about what money is to us. To some people, it means absolutely nothing, but that is still a belief. That is still a belief that has been created from that person's experience of believing that you don't need money and you can be provided in other ways. That's still a belief, versus people who just want money, who want to become billionaires and chase money and do whatever they can to have money. So there's so many different ways. Today I'm going to speak about one of the money beliefs that I held on to, and that was, when you have money, you will eventually lose it. And that was something that was experienced by me in my upbringing. So I've probably spoken about this before somewhere, but today I'm in a different place. Hopefully you get some new codes and ideas about it. But growing up with parents who believed that you worked hard and you received money, they built themselves up to quite a comfortable place. So they were both working full-time, long hours, but they also had money because they worked hard for it. My grandfather also worked hard for his money. He had businesses and did investments and ended up being a multimillionaire, etc. And what happened was, and probably because I was a child, I still don't know the full story, but eventually he lost it all. He was no longer a multimillionaire. He was bankrupt. And so what I saw was someone who was wealthy, who had all these houses and cars and girlfriends and lived this amazing life and never spoke to us grandchildren because children should be seen and not heard. And this lifestyle and person that he was, then he changed once he became bankrupt. It turned him into someone who actually spoke to us, someone who actually came to our house for dinner, who had a normal everyday car. He didn't have all these fancy Mercedes, etc. He had a normal house. It was such a turnaround from being this person who was extremely wealthy and having this air about them. And yes, we can go into how many money stories this story is going to hold with how people with money act, etc. But we're only going to talk about the one. And the change in him was literally like black and white. But what I saw from that, what experience from that was that because he had money and then he lost it, it was like, oh, okay, so if you're rich, you can't hold on to it. And of course, this was such a big impact for us because as children, and he owned half a mountain at the time and he was developing it and things like that. So every weekend we'd have to go up and do flights and all these other things relating to it when he had money. And then when he didn't, our whole lives changed. So everything was different. We didn't do all those things and the dinners and the going outs and things we used to do. So it was very impactful. It was something that made a difference, not just obviously to his life, but to our lives as well. So we grew up with that with most of our childhood. And then what happened with my parents who had instilled in us the importance of working hard so you can have money and you can get nice things and live in a certain way, to watch my father get sick, who ended up with a very rare illness that was a slow progression, but there was nothing you could do to stop it. And as you start to deteriorate and you need medical assistance and help and things to alleviate the pain or things to try and stop it or to slow it down and all the things that go along with that, especially as you start to lose your motor neuron functions and things like that, the certain care that you need, the certain aids that you need. And so eventually, of course, mum and dad, they'd go through their savings, then they'd go through their retirement funds, and then they had to sell properties, then they had to sell houses, and eventually dad ended up in a home and they have to pay for that, etc., etc. So all that wealth that they built up of working their whole adult life, of working so hard and having all this money because dad had his car that had been working on all his life and they were building up all their properties and they were about to do this whole new thing with their businesses, and then they were going to retire and travel and with the cars and all that, and they had waited and built everything up for that. But for dad to get sick and then for them to have to spend all their money, lose everything that they had because he was sick and because of the care that he required before he passed away. So guess what that solidified for my beliefs? Oh, so even when you work hard and you get all this money and you have all these things, you get sick and you lose it. Oh, look, you've just solidified that belief that I was already holding, that when you have money, you eventually lose it. So even without my grandfather or my father or my mother telling me that this is what money does, we saw it, we felt it, we lived it. So we saw that, and that became our own belief. That became something that was part of me. That was something that, even though you don't walk around going, oh, everybody, if you have money, you were going to lose it. Like, we're not walking around preaching it. It just becomes part of that coding of who we are. And we will act and behave and respond to things based on those beliefs. And obviously that belief is not a belief that's standalone on its own with money. There's a lot more that we intertwine with that. Don't you worry. But having that there, guess what happened in my adult life? Because I was believing that that's what happened with money, that's exactly what happened with money. because it would come and it would go. It would come and it would go. And that was something that was super difficult to try and let go of, to try and see that there is another way, to try and believe that that is not the case for everyone, that is not the only way that money can be. And it's not so much about changing our mindset and believing that money can be consistent and it's there all the time. It's releasing the attachment to that belief about money in the first place. Because if we let go of that belief of money, it doesn't matter, even if it does ebb and flow. Even if it came in today and you had a big wad and then you had none for the next few months, that's not the part that we find difficult. That's the part that we need to be open and to allow money to come as we allow it. Which means that instead of us placing the onus on money coming in exactly when we want it and how we want it and controlling it all in the way that we want it, instead of believing that it's always there, regardless of whether it comes in ebb and flows, regardless of whether it's big chunks, small little bits, or consistently all the time, trusting in that it is always there is what makes the difference. But for us to get to a place where we can detach from all those beliefs about money, because it's not going to be just one that's going to hold you back, it's finding all of those beliefs that are there, that are entwined. So even with this belief that I was holding on to, that it comes and then it goes, there were other layers to that. There were other pieces that were entwined with that. So I had to really be able to look at all those beliefs in order to let them all go, so that we could see that there was a different way to view it, even based on no experience in that, no proof of that, no seeing it happen and going, okay, I've seen how that works, I'm going to believe something else now. It's pure faith in a belief that I have created for myself based on all the other work I've done and the way that I perceive our existence and our reality and blah, 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 blah. It's all those things. So even though we can start with that one belief and we can start to release that, once we start seeing how it's entwined with others, we can start to release them as well. And what happens is eventually you won't hold anything against that whole topic or that whole idea, or maybe something little will come up and you'll know how to see it, you'll know how to recognize it, you'll know how to let go of it. And as I'm speaking, the way that I see these beliefs and I talk about these threads and codes and things like that, if you imagine that this belief that I spoke of, that money comes and goes, you can imagine it as a thread or as a symbol or as a dot or as a shape, and see the way that it cannot stand alone on its own. It has to be attached to something else in order for it to be real to me. And for me, the way it was attached in the way of experiences that I lived through as a child and as an adult. So that's what made it real for me. That's what made it part of who I am, is in the experience that I experience. So if you can imagine that as a thread, as an object, as a symbol, and see how it does have all those pieces attached to it, because it's attached to a story, it's attached to other stories, it's attached to other people. And then imagine it start to dissipate and start to expand in a way where it starts to let go. So if you see it as a symbol or a shape, imagine that shape expanding and starting to get more space throughout that piece. So it starts to be shattered and scatter its pieces around. Or if you're seeing it as a thread, imagine that thread start to disintegrate. Imagine seeing it start to break up. So what happens is when we're releasing these beliefs, when we're looking at them straight in the eye, we're seeing what they are, where they've come from. We're seeing how we created that as a belief. Once we can witness it, once we can see it, once we have decided that there is an alternative to the way that we can see it and to the way that we can hold on to it, that's when we can make it disappear. That's when we can make it dissipate. And there's many different modalities and ideas and the ways that we can release these beliefs that we hold on to, even beliefs that you've held on to your whole life. Like for me, those I held all my life, but it's in that willingness, in that intention, and knowing that you will find whatever it is and what will work for you in order to allow that to dissipate from your beliefs or from your knowing, or at least start to give it some space. So if you see it as a shape and you're giving it space, it's no longer going to have that tight hold. And as it starts to release, anything else that it's attached to will come up. It will start to be seen. It will start to show up in your reality, and you'll be able to look at that, and then you can dissipate that as well. So even though we can start with one of those beliefs, it's in that whole idea that you know that it's a belief. That's your first point of seeing it and getting you closer to allowing to release it. Because if you still hold on to these beliefs, that's what's going to become your reality. That's what's going to form part of the existence and the experience that you are having in this reality around you. So even though I've only spoken about one belief, it's actually not even in the belief, in the way that we allow it to release. It's more of finding it, seeing it, look it dead in the eyes, feel it, move it, whatever it is, and then allow it to dissipate. Find the many different ways of how you can release these thoughts and beliefs. And if you need ideas, I have many, because there's many different ways that I have worked on releasing these, and it wasn't just through a visualization of dissipating them. This was something that I now use now, because there is a lot more that has become untangled, whereas before it was it was like a tight knotty ball of like Christmas lights. And it's getting to that stage where we no longer have that, and now we can do simple things but just dissipate them and allow them to release from our mind. But if you do have your own money stories and know that money is a problem for you in the way that you believe, not that I don't have enough money or I want more money or whatever it is, if you know that money is something that you want to look at in a totally different way, and you want to try and get to a place where you can bring it in and you can embrace it and love it and manifest more of it in your life, you will need to listen to my announcement, which is coming on October 7, Surge. You will see it everywhere if you follow me anywhere on the socials. And I've been very secretive about it, because it's something that I don't even know if I have words in the way that I can describe it. But let's just say October 7, everything will be revealed. If you follow me anywhere on any socials, whichever ones you're listening to or seeing or hearing this, you will find the information on October 7. But if you are holding money stories, just know you don't have to hold them forever. They do not need to control your life, and money does not need to control your life. Now, tomorrow I will be doing another podcast. I'm doing 3 in a row, and tomorrow this is another big topic right up there with money, and that's love. So tune in, come and listen tomorrow, and yeah, we'll be talking about something else about love, obviously, because that's the topic. Who doesn't want love, right?